Good morning. Welcome to Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Ruth Trudeau, Worship Circle Coordinator. Welcome to online worship. This morning we welcome Reverend Robert Moore, Affiliated Community Minister at Horizon. Rob served interim ministries in Grand Junction, Colorado and Port Townsend, Washington, and in 2004 he came to Texas. He was part of the original ministry teams at Pathways Church. In addition to these ministries, he has taught junior and senior high OWL classes, was a leader of Wellsprings and Soul Matters groups, and lent his voice to various choirs along the way. He is employed at Travelers Insurance, where he leads mindfulness sessions and develops plans for enterprise-wide mindfulness programs. Rob is a trained spiritual director, and we are delighted he became Horizon's affiliated community minister in 2020, and we welcome him this morning. And now, here is one thing you can do this week. Buy toilet paper. I want you to buy it and bring it to the church on Saturday, July the 24th, to support MetroCrest Services' Let's Roll North Texas Toilet Paper Challenge. Their goal is to collect 100,000 rolls of toilet paper for MetroCrest Services Pantry. Now that same Saturday, the 24th, Horizon's goal is to prepare the church for our return. We need you to sweep, dust, and polish up the church. So put it on your calendar. Summer Spruce Up and MetroCrest donation drop-off, Saturday, July 24th, from noon until 3 p.m. I hope you can join us this morning for coffee hour at 11:30. Our virtual coffee hour link can be found on our homepage at horizonuu.org. There you will also find information on the many activities at Horizon. Now, let us worship together.
We light the chalice with the words of Reverend Seth Carrier Ladd. Wind, water, sun. Wind that whispers through the willow trees, sun that sustains us, water that washes over willing earth and weathered stones, a smile shared and savored, a child's squeal of delight as she dances in the daisies and daffodils, the quiet joy of gathered community. This is a spirit of life and love that we call forth now into this gathering. May this spirit infuse our hearts, fill our souls, carry us forward like a wave on the ocean as we enter now into this sacred time and space. Now, let us worship together. Please join me now in saying the words of our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth, thus do we covenant together.
Source of all to thee we raise this our Now we come to the practice of giving. The Share the Plate recipient for July is MetroCrest Services. MetroCrest relies on volunteers and values your contributions of personal care items, diapers, and shelf-stable food. But they also need generous gifts of money to keep doing their great work. MetroCrest Services assists individuals living in Carrollton, Addison, Farmers Branch, Capel, the City of Dallas, and Denton County. Their focus is assisting families, individuals, and senior adults who are coping with crisis situations, need help stabilizing their lives, or who require support to live independently. You may donate online at horizonuu.org or mail checks to the church made out to Horizon UU Church with MetroCrest on the memo line anytime during the month of July. We will have our next drop-off event for MetroCrest this coming Saturday, July 24th from 12 to 3 p.m. As part of this drop-off event, we will also spruce up our building. It's been well over a year since we have been in the church for Sunday worship. Being back in the church is on the horizon. To prepare for our return, please join us as we add some shine and sparkle to the church and bring a donation for MetroCrest. In celebration of MetroCrest Services' 50th anniversary, they have set a goal to collect 100,000 rolls of toilet paper, which equals 1 year for the pantry, by National Toilet Paper Day, which is Thursday, August 26th of this year. Who knew there was even a National Toilet Paper Day? So other urgent needs include feminine hygiene products, household cleaning products, shelf-stable food, soap, toothpaste, diapers, and wipes. Thank you for these gifts for this organization, for MetroCrest Services, and your continued gifts toward the mission and ministry of this church. Love is the doctrine, the teaching of this church. And it is with this principle that we are present with one another through our joys, sorrows, and especially in the way these things tend to arrive all at once in one tangled blessing we call life. We are also present to the joys and sorrows of this world, knowing how interdependent we are with all of creation. To this end, we celebrate this past week, July 14th, which was International Non-Binary Peoples Day. This day provides us a reminder and an opportunity to recognize that gender is not a simple binary. The variety of people is so much richer than that. And also, as many of us begin to emerge out into the world again and begin to think about congregating again in our church building, may we also remember all those still suffering through the pandemic, picking up again with the variant sweeping the world and our nation. And let us honor the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, yet live in the silence of our hearts. Let us honor the stories of heartache and hope, beauty and loss. For all those places that need forgiveness, may forgiveness be given and received. For the division in our nation, in our families, and in our lives, may we be restored to new wholeness. And for the many blessings of our lives, may our hearts be overcome with gratitude. As I light this candle, may we be reminded of the connections we have with each other and for all beings, knowing that what affects one affects us all. So may it be, and amen. I now invite you into a time to join together in meditation, prayer, and silence. Let us begin by breathing together. The simple act of taking a mindful breath, or 5 or 10, begins to relax the body and quiet the mind. In a quiet and relaxed moment, we sometimes find gratitude arising. Gratitude for this day, this life. Gratitude for the many blessings we have received and all those we hold dear. Perhaps in the next moment, we find fear or anxiety arising from all that is challenging us right now. Illness, loss, troubled relationships. May we ask for and receive strength and courage and resilience in the face of these challenges. May we also find forgiveness arising. Forgiveness for ourselves or for some other. May we tend that seed of forgiveness so that it blooms to free us from that which burdens us. In this next moment, I invite you to be together in silence now, to notice what arises in you this day. For all that has been made aware to us in this moment, we give thanks. So may it be, and amen.
Something Wild and Unbroken, a poem by Carrie Newcomer. Riding my bike down a narrow country road, to one side a dense forest, on the other side a wide summer meadow. Then, right there beside me, a graceful young doe was bounding in beautiful, unhurried leaps, and for just a moment we were two deer running together in the blue evening light. Then, with a burst of speed, she dashed in front of me and disappeared into the woods, leaving me breathless with a feeling of visitation, of Holy Communion, like I'd been touched ever so briefly by something wild and unbroken. Since that moment, the world has felt a little less weary, like anything and everything is still completely possible.
As a spiritual director, I often ask my directees about their spiritual experiences. Often the response I get is they feel most connected in nature. But the response is tinged with a little embarrassment or apology, as if nature doesn't count as a spiritual experience. If it doesn't happen in church or meditation or prayer, then it's not spiritual somehow. And this is more often than not Unitarian Universalists expressing this to me. Now, to me, it makes perfect sense that folks find some sort of and even deep spirituality in nature. Nature is filled with beauty and mystery, so much wonder and awe. All the things that many of us would and do consider quite spiritual. I'm right there with many of you in seeing nature in this way. At the same time, though, I often have a pretty ambivalent relationship with nature, with the outdoors. I am a suburban guy through and through. I haven't been camping in like 40 years or more, because the one time I did go, I was miserably cold and wet the whole time and swore, that is just not for me. I'm not doing that again. And since then, just give me a posh hotel, a good book, some good food and drinks, and I'm a happy non-camper. So it's a bit ironic that I am giving this sermon on nature. But my engagement with nature also shows the paradox that nature presents to many of us. The paradox for me is I love nature, but only in short, somewhat controlled situations. I love a good hike on clearly marked trails. I love sitting at the beach and in the shallow-ish part of the ocean. One of the earliest pictures of me is at the beach at about 1 or 2 years old, with a parent-made little hole in the sand filled with water, but just beyond the reach of the waves coming to shore. I love nature, just not too much. Now, many of you may argue then that that is not really nature, and you're right to a certain degree. But still, I find deep connection in and to nature, even in my limited way. So it's a paradox. And a paradox is nothing if not an aspect of spirituality that amazes and confounds us throughout our lives. Nature is one of those big concepts that can mean different things to different people. In the context of this sermon, I think of nature as all of what many call creation. It is all the basic and not so basic bug and animal and plant life. It is our pets that we love and cherish. It is water, air, and earth. It is forests and mountains and beaches. It is the whole earth and sky and universe. It includes all the connections and processes of all those things. It truly is the interdependent web of all existence, from our seventh principle, which we'll talk about more later. It also includes our bodies and our relationships and our organizations and communities and on, but I will limit that part and focus more today on the great outdoors and our connection with it. From here, we can begin to see how nature described this way can be and is quite spiritual. Now, here's another term that can be troublesome: spiritual. And for me, spiritual encompasses much of what I listed out earlier: something larger than ourselves, something full of beauty, mystery, wonder, awe, something that connects us to each other and to our deeper selves, something that calls or invites us toward growth or service, and even something that challenges us and guides us. And nature can be and is all of those things. So I turn now to the poets and songwriters and authors to guide us for a little ways in describing some of these aspects of our experiences with and in nature, to guide us to the heart of our connection to nature, to speak to beauty and mystery and awe. Hear these words of beauty from Dr. Oliver Sacks and Father John O'Donohue. First, from Dr. Sacks: I find myself walking softly on the rich undergrowth beneath the trees, not wanting to crack a twig, to crush or disturb anything in the least. For there is such a sense of stillness and peace that the wrong sort of movement, even one's very presence, might be felt as an intrusion. The beauty of the forest is extraordinary, but beauty is too simple a word, for being here is not just an aesthetic experience, but one steeped with mystery and awe. And from Father O'Donohue: the human soul is hungry for beauty. When we experience the beautiful, there is a sense of homecoming. Some of our most wonderful memories are beautiful places where we felt immediately at home. We feel most alive in the presence of the beautiful, for it meets the needs of our soul. For a while, the strains of struggle and endurance are relieved, and our frailty is illuminated by a different light, in which we come to glimpse behind the shudder of appearances and sure form of things. In the experience of beauty, we awaken and surrender in the same act. Beauty brings a sense of completeness and sureness. Without any of the usual calculation, we can slip into the beautiful with the same ease as we slip into the seamless embrace of water. Something ancient within us already trusts that this embrace will hold us. I'm sure most of us can recall similar stories of wonder and awe and mystery and beauty in nature. This is often why many of us respond to those questions of spiritual experiences with these types of nature experiences. For connection, our reading earlier from Carrie Newcomer gives us an example of the possibilities after her encounter with a young doe in the woods. She writes, leaving me breathless with a feeling of visitation, of holy communion, like I had been touched ever so briefly by something wild and unbroken. Since that moment, the world has felt less weary, like anything and everything is still completely possible. Or how about this quote from Thoreau, our great natural Unitarian ancestor, on how it feels to return to the woods alone. I come to myself. I once more feel myself grandly related, and that the cold and solitude of friends of mine are friends of mine. I suppose that this value, in my case, is equivalent to what others get by church going and prayer. I come to my solitary woodland walk as the homesick go home. It is as if I always met in those places some grand, serene, immortal, infinitely encouraging, though invisible companion, and walked with him. And this familiar excerpt from Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. And you knew I would get to Mary Oliver at some point, didn't you? Our wonderful patron saint of the natural world. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. We see in these quotes and excerpts how nature can guide us to connection, but it's not always rational or in a direct line. This is why the poets often have to guide us with their words and images. And nature can call us, invite us, and challenge us as well. Just as with any spiritual practice, as we continue the practice of awareness of, openness to, and engagement with nature, it ultimately speaks to our heart and grows us spiritually in terms of love, compassion, generosity, and service. As UU minister, the Reverend Sean Parker Dennison puts it, the ability to see beauty is the beginning of our moral sensibility. What we believe is beautiful, we will not wantonly destroy. And I think another Mary Oliver poem, The Sun, which I previously was not familiar with, captures the beauty, the wonder, the invitation of nature, all of it together very well. She writes, have you ever seen anything in your life more wonderful than the way the sun every evening, relaxed and easy, floats toward the horizon and into the clouds or the hills or the rumpled sea and is gone? And how it slides again out of the blackness every morning on the other side of the world like a red flower, streaming upward on its heavenly oils, say on a morning in early summer, at its perfect imperial distance. And have you ever felt for anything such wild love? Do you think there is anywhere, in any language, a world billowing enough for the pleasure that fills you, as the sun reaches out as it warms you, as you stand there empty-handed? Or have you too turned from this world? Or have you too gone crazy for power, for things? With these many examples of lovely writing on the experiences of nature and the spirituality within those experiences, we humans often want to cling to and try to recreate these experiences more often. That has led us to bring them into our religions. Our Christian ancestors have a rather mixed history in this regard, depending on how literally they take the whole dominion over the earth passages in the Jewish and Christian scriptures. But they also have Saint Francis and the first incarnation. Now, the first incarnation refers to the act of creation, what we now call the Big Bang. In Christian language, the first incarnation was not Jesus' birth, but the moment God poured God's self into the universe as atoms, light and darkness, stars, planets, galaxies, our earth, and all that we call nature within it. This is how many of us then first encounter God, through our experience of nature and the wonder and the connection we find there. St. Francis took this to its full meaning, not only greeting and treating other people as incarnations of God, but also much of nature that surrounded him. He speaks of brother sun and sister moon. We know of that famous painting of his preaching to the birds. He felt that all creatures and all aspects of nature were his siblings under God. Nature calls each of us to be in this type of deep relationship, for it is not just with beauty, but also what we find precious and holy, we will not wantonly destroy. Of course, from our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we have the Transcendentalist and specifically Thoreau that gives us the spirituality of nature that eventually led to our including the seventh principle to our covenant of what we hold important. Now, our seventh principle incorporates more than just nature, since the interdependent web of all existence includes all of us, our relationships, and so forth. But we often reduce it to the principle that guides our engagement with nature. In her essay on the seventh principle from the late 90s, UU minister, the Reverend Barbara Merritt, calls us to take this principle seriously by asking in part, are we kind and compassionate to other creatures? Are we aware and careful of our own impact on the natural environment? Do we work not just the soil of our gardens, but also the ground of our hearts, paying attention to those circumstances that break us open, that call us to go deeper, that challenges us to be more responsive to our fellow men and fellow women? She then sums up the impact of this principle by saying, to acknowledge the interdependent web of all existence is to admit that we live in the midst of mystery. We are supported and sustained by life forces we do not fully understand. We are acting upon others. We are affecting the quality of other lives in everything we do. Every one of us is part of a much larger story than we can comprehend from our own limited perspective. Does that language sound familiar from our earlier aspects of spirituality? Mystery, wonder, something larger than ourselves, deep connections, more than we can see. The more we are aware of and engaged with the natural world, the more we develop this awareness of mystery, the more we see those connections between ourselves and other creatures and each other, the more we allow beauty and wonder to work their magic on us, the more it calls us to service. So it makes total sense to me that people from many different faith traditions continually count their deep experiences of nature among their most spiritual experiences. It is where we often first encounter God and where we encounter God most deeply. It is where we stand in awe before a sunrise or a sunset, digging in the dirt of our gardens, before a powerful ocean, a delicate flower or insect, a doe running alongside us, a forest full of closer friends than those sitting across from us, the sound of geese assuring us of our place in the world. So this day, may we take the time to truly smell the roses, to walk the paths, to hike the mountains, to splash in the oceans and the lakes, to meditate among the beasts and the birds. And may we find their connection and love and compassion, mystery and wonder. And may we be called to growth and wholeness in the midst of this spiritual abundance. So may it be, and Amen.
We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to our mission, to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world.
As benediction this day, I leave you with these words from Amanda Udis Kessler from one of our hymns, Mother Earth, Beloved Garden. Mother Earth, beloved garden, living treasure underfoot, all our days you ground our being, sage and thistle, grass and root, herbs to heal us, plants to feed us, land to tend and till and plow. Father Air, your inspiration holds together all that lives. As we breathe, our minds see clearly, leading us to love and give. Raging whirlwind, whispered breezes, violent gale, and gentle cloud. Brother Fire, great transformer, share the passion of the sun. In our hearths, your warmth revives us, cooks our food, and heats our homes. Flaming candle, blood within, blazing desert, will to grow. Sister water, ever flowing, ocean, river, pond, and rain. Drink we now and quench our thirsting. Cleanse us, we begin again. Mist and ice, a host of changes, all that courage will allow. And so, in the abundance of summer, may we go forth in gratitude and devotion to all of nature and the bounty and beauty it provides us through all of our days. Go now in peace, and amen.